Hello and welcome to the Type 2 video of the Enneagram video series. I'm so excited to interview some of my Type 2 sisters here in a moment. But before we get started, I want to give you a little introduction as to what it means to be a Type 2. So Type 2s are called the helper, and they are always ready to lend a helping hand, and they love the feeling of others acknowledging the help that they give. And they are a part of the heart or feeling triad. And every member of this triad feels as though people will not love their authentic selves, and so they need to do something in order to gain other people's love. And for twos, this means helping them out. They are warm, they're empathetic, and they have an almost psychic-like ability to predict other people's needs, but unhealthy twos kind of unravel when other people don't give them the recognition they feel they deserve, because when they're always going out of their way to help you and then you don't help them in return, they feel very, very frustrated. But they're bright lights and they're very interpersonal, and they are great at maintaining relationships. In stress, they move towards the unhealthy aspects of type 8, so they can become aggressive, they can become manipulative, and begin to blame others for their unhappiness. But in growth, they move towards the positive aspects of the type 4. So they are more secure with their own emotions, and they understand that people love them for who they are and not how they help them.
And hello to my Type 2s. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
So let's get started. First off, what is your favorite part about being a Type 2?
I think the other thing I love about my type is how loving we are for people. At least maybe that's me projecting my own personality in this, but I just really have a heart for people and a heart for taking care of others.
I feel like I kind of always felt like the mom of a group, like it kind of even as young as like, junior high and high school, I kind of always felt like a motherly figure. Like I always wanted to help others and take care of others.
I would say my favorite part about the type 2 is like when it was saying like, oh, like they're altruistic, empathetic, and things like that. Those are definitely traits that I have always tried to strive for. I always think like empathy is a very important trait to have, and I think it's nice to read that about yourself as well sometimes.
Type 2s, we do sometimes feel other people's feelings very strongly. No matter how different someone is, we can usually find something to agree on, whether it's even our favorite meal or something. Like we will seek out something to understand that person.
Okay, so then the flip side of that coin, of course, what are some of the frustrations that you find with being a Type 2?
The Type 2s tend to put themselves first before others. And that's definitely something that I struggled with in my own life, and something that I'm trying to get beyond and trying to take care of myself while also taking care of other people.
But I definitely would like to be better about not always being as snippety, I think, whenever I feel like I'm finally at my limit. And, just remember that people are people. Like, I'm not perfect either. And just because I'm always trying to consider their needs and stuff doesn't mean they're not trying to consider mine.
And Abby said this a little bit earlier, but there's this part of being a 2 that's kind of like a almost psychic level ability to read other people's feelings and needs. And I think subconsciously as 2s, we sometimes just assume that other people can read ours. If they're not met, then it's kind of that feeling of being let down, when in reality, they didn't realize they were letting you down.
A lot of times I do choose to just swallow my feelings, which is fine in the moment, but it usually boils up at random times. And my boyfriend is just very caught off guard and is like, where the heck did that come from? And I'm like, don't you remember 7 months ago when we were talking about this one thing? I do have those like frustrated moments where you can't explain to anyone else why you're feeling frustrated. Because it's just so many tiny little things throughout the day. Taking that 10th phone call that you didn't need to take, and there's a million more people that could answer that person's quick question. But again, like I feel guilty when I just don't answer the phone.
I would love to hear, maybe for people who aren't sure if they're a Type 2, what was part of your type description that really sat with you that made you realize that you are a Type 2?
The name and the little phrase that goes with it, the helper, the people who need to be needed. It goes something like that.
If you're thinking you might be a Type 2 and you're like the caretaker of your group, but, maybe you also sometimes feel like, oh, no one really appreciates or acknowledges the love that I give, it might be type 2.
Yeah, and during the type 9 video, it was really interesting because a lot of them said that they typed as type 2s at a couple times in their life. You know, type 9 is the peacemaker, super focused on making sure that everybody is taken care of. So they do present very similarly. In my mind, though, type 9s don't expect people to give that back to them. Like type 2s want you to be taken care of, and they want that so badly to be given back to them.
Yeah, I think the 2 is really focused on those relationships.
So you are a part of the heart and feeling triad. So how do you believe feelings impact your life?
In every way, every day, in everything we do ever. I mean, it's that, like, it's leading with your emotions. You know, it's making decisions based on your emotions. And if sometimes, and that can often kind of overshadow logic or or reason, because you get emotionally invested in decisions very quickly.
Having feelings is the core of basically who I am has made me a lot of who I am and my personality, and in fact it's positively affected my life more than anything else.
Do you all find that you're internal or external processors?
I'm an external processor for the most part.
Like whenever I try to process things internally, I always just get kind of mixed up with my ideas.
I'm definitely an external processor who wants to learn how to be a more internal processor. Sometimes I trust the opinions of others more than I trust the opinions of myself.
So for Kat and Anna, you are 2 wing 1s and are known for kind of doing and having very high personal standards. So I would love to hear how you feel like that combines with your 2 element.
You live to serve others as a 2, and you also have to do it really well. I think there's a lot of overlap because making things better and helping others just seem to really go hand in hand for me.
But from what I've read about specifically type 2 wing 1, that I feel like, or at least that I related to, was they often have contradictory characteristics. So like, for instance, you're emotional, but you're also trying to be rational. I've always been told, like, oh, you need to think more logically, you need to be more rational. Like growing up as like a kid, that's always what I was told. And so that's always what I try to do. And so then reading that on the type 2 wing 1, I was like, oh, that's interesting, that it's like, you know, so contradictory.
How do you feel like your type 3 component impacts your type 2?
We moved right in the middle of the pandemic, and my primary goal in life was to make friends, but I found myself signing up for every organization. And the type 3 side of me really spreads yourself thin with saying yes to everything. And I want to, because I want to be involved and I want to build a lot of connections.
You know, I'm super involved on campus. I had an officer position in my sorority. I'm really involved with the committees. I have a scholarship leadership program. I work, I study, and I really try to make time for my relationships and my relationship with Christ too, and be involved in my church. Like, I'm always doing things, have a very strict plan. I'm a type A person.
There's an artist that's called Sleeping at Last who created a song for each Enneagram type and put like a huge amount of effort into making them. And I decided to pull a stanza from the type 2 song for you. And I would just love to hear how it makes you feel, if you agree with it, if you don't agree with it. Just tell me all your thoughts. So it says, tell me if something's wrong, you can count on me. You know, I'll take my heart clean apart if it helps yours beat.
I think that's really all the type 2 is wanting, is just other people to say, you know, we'd also go to the ends of the earth for you because we love you that much, and we don't care what you do for us. We just love you exactly how you are and who you are.
You know, type 2s are very self-sacrificing, whether there's a motive behind it just for hoping someone will like you, or just because you're willing and you care and that's just what you do, or maybe it's both. You know, people are complex.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And the line where it says, I'd take my heart clean apart if it helps yours beat, it's dark and it's sad and it's painful, but it's very much true for a lot of 2s.
And the 2 spends so much time trying to solve all of these people's problems that normally aren't even asking for help themselves, we kind of push ourselves into it and then kind of complain when we are out of, we do have an empty cup, basically.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot today about how twos are very focused on other people's emotions, but for our type 2 sisters who are watching this video, how have you worked on zeroing in on your own emotions and working through them?
Daily journaling has really helped me, because I take yesterday's kind of thoughts and feelings and put them into a little bit more of a, physical writing and that you can revisit.
For my fellow two sisters who, like me, might feel guilty externally processing to others and dumping your problems on other people, therapists are paid to do that. And when I have found immense success and comfort in speaking to therapists over the course of my life.
For any type 2 sisters, I would absolutely recommend going to therapy. It's helped me so much. Just being able to talk to someone who is completely third party, has any kind of, connection to your regular life.
I would say also, really try and learn how to not apologize for yourself. Mm-hmm. Your feelings are extremely valid, and the people in your life do really care about you, with or without any actions, gifts, anything like that.
And the best piece of advice I ever heard about that was also replacing sorry with thank you, and trying to find ways in which to switch that around. Sorry for venting. Thank you for listening to me. You leave conversations feeling better,
So just a couple more questions here for you. But again, for our type 2 sisters that are watching, type 2s struggle with asking for help. What are some things that you've learned on how to manage that in your life?
Not keeping score. To sometimes have a tendency of saying, to put it in a home aspect, well, I did the dishes and cooked dinner, so now you get to clean and do this other thing, keeping tabs.
Try to just, put yourself in their shoes and think there's no scenario in which someone would ask me to do something this simple and I would feel inconvenienced in any way.
Lastly, I'd love to hear, what is something that you wish people understood about being a type 2, and how can sisters or people that you're in relationships with use that information to be a better friend to you?
If you know a 2, if you love a 2, and you find yourself slipping into a pattern with them, even if you had absolutely no intention of doing so, if you find yourself slipping into a pattern with them where you find them giving too much of themselves, you're probably right, and they probably are.
We don't want to have to ask for help. It's not that we're not willing to serve and care like we want to, we do, but it's also nice when people are wanting to serve it back without us even having to ask. I think knowing that reaching out and just asking how we're doing too with just as much care and intensity is very important.
Type 2s also really appreciate being acknowledged, and so part of checking in on your type 2 friend, you can also just say, hey, thank you for everything you've done. You're great, but also you're great, so take care of yourself.
When you check in with a 2, don't mention anything you need right off the bat. Just genuinely say, how are you feeling? And is there anything that I can take off your plate today? Is immensely helpful.
Definitely. Okay, well, this has been amazing. Thank you for your time. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for checking out this video in the Sigma Kappa Enneagram video series. If you want to learn more about the other types or about the Enneagram in general, make sure to check out the other videos. Bye!